Hello, everyone, and welcome to Jennifer Hart Connected. I am your host, me, Jennifer Hart, if you didn't guess that already. Say hello. Where are you tuning in from? Thanks for joining us, whether it's your first time or you are returning. We are happy to see you here. I can't literally see you because I'm streaming this, but you get the point, right? I like to make little jokes because I think I'm funny, and I'm laughing on the inside right now. I don't know. There's always something different that comes up every day that I do these lives. I love to do them, and I consider myself to be a connector. I love sharing information, events, resources, people who have amazing services. My passion and my focus is in the realm of spirituality and personal development. And I'm the creator and the founder of the Connected Soul Network, which is a network made up of explorers, people that are just looking for personal growth and development. Maybe they're new to spirituality or they're on their far on their spiritual journey. And we come together as a community. There is tools, resources, and things to attend to help us discover more about ourselves, to shed and become the best version of ourselves. And the network is also made up of guides. These are the practitioners, the healers, the coaches, anybody who is guiding others on the journey. And we come together right now mostly through online events. We do have one in-person event that we have done, the Mount Shasta Mystical Journey, which we are going to talk about today because Occam, our guest, he was there live with us. So we're going to do a little reminiscing. And the waitlist is in the caption wherever you're watching this. If you want to be notified of next year's event when the details are up, make sure you hop on. And if you want to join us in the network, a great place to start is in the Facebook group. So on Facebook, it is the Connected Soul Network. If you're off of Facebook, here's the link you can use. This is a free group. It's for people who are paid members or just guests and friends of the network. It's for explorers and guides. We have a couple of reoccurring events with more to come soon. And yeah, we'll be doing more stuff. I'm slowly building the Facebook group. I'm learning there's a lot to being a solopreneur and creating a community and a membership. And I'm happy you're all along the ride with me because, boy, it's been a fun journey. And I love to share it with people as well. And if you are like, heck yeah, I want to become a member. I need community. I would like to come to these awesome personal growth, healing, educational events and meet new people. You can join us with an all-access monthly pass at jenniferhart.com. Woohoo! So exciting. Okay, let's get to it. I'm so excited for our guest today. He is one of the guides in the Connected Soul Network. His name is Occam Wood. He is a certified level 3 Reiki master and teacher, and the creator of Trauma, Transmutation, and Soul Integration, also known as TTSI. We will be talking about that later, so keep that in your mind, TTSI, a method for helping survivors of sexual and physical abuse and those struggling with addiction to identify, neutralize, and transmute their unresolved trauma. With over 20 years of sobriety and a wealth of personal experience, Occam is passionate about helping others release the past and move into life beyond trauma. He loves sharing his story, we'll ask him to tell it today, and insights on podcasts, and invites listeners to join him on a journey of self-discovery and healing. This is why we get along so well, because we're on the same journey together. What is up, my friend?
Woo-hoo. Nice to be here again.
I know. Okay, so we have to start off with a super funny story. So we started to record an interview, and like we were just chatting it up. We're the 40 minutes into the interview, and all of a sudden Occam's frozen. I noticed that, and then he just leaves this. This is a studio where we record this at. And I was like, what the heck happened? So I'm calling him, I'm messaging him, I'm not hearing back. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope everything's okay. Was there an emergency? Did his internet go down? Sure enough, his internet went down. And so I had a tight schedule. I think his internet was down, so we couldn't do anything. And so we are now redoing the whole interview, and we're just chopping it up that the universe said, hey guys, this was great and there's something better waiting for you. So we're honoring that we needed to just redo the interview, because we thought about like, oh, can we piece it together and just show up? We'll make it funny. Well, you wore the same outfit, but I didn't. I was like, no, it'll be funny. But then we couldn't remember where we left off at. So I was like, screw it. So anyways, that is the backstory of this interview. This is take 2. And you wouldn't have known that had I not told you, but that's the fun part of the behind the scenes. I love behind the scenes stuff.
I love behind the scenes stuff too. And it's our second interview actually communicating through here too, and for the page as well. So it's our second time.
Well, yeah, I was going to say technically our third, but this will be the second one that we've completed and aired. There's always something good for there. So let's start off with, I always like to tell people how I met you, even though we talked about that last time. I always assume that maybe someone has not seen the last video. I never want to make that assumption. So Occam and I met online. I had done an interview. This is the power of the freaking universe, and I love it. I did an interview with someone else. That person shared their interview with Occam to get to know them better. And then Occam was like, I need to get to know this girl, and sent me a message. And we have been connected ever since. And he's phenomenal. I'm so grateful for that person sharing the interview. And this is the power of like the win-win situation. So I love doing these interviews. I interviewed this person to help share their mission and their vision and their services of helping others. And then we got connected because of it. And then that person also has this great interview about themselves that they're able to use to be able to share themselves with the world too. I love it. Anyways, sorry. I get so excited.
No apology necessary.
So tell me about, how did you start your journey? I always like to ask that. Like, who were you before you started, and what was your catalyst into your spiritual awakening and doing this work?
Yeah. So my journey started 22 years ago now, when I was 19. That's my journey out of the darkness, I would say, or out of the tough times, or the times that we talked about this last time too. What is the dark time, right? Those times where I was not being of myself, when I wasn't following my soul's desire, and I got caught up in what Don Miguel Ruiz calls the dream of society, right? Got caught up in all the instant gratifications and physical things. And so I was really into drugs and alcohol and violence and agitation during my teenage years, right? Having had a childhood of sexual and physical abuse that led to the drug and alcohol abuse. And once you're in that realm, in that world, it's really hard to see anything outside of your surroundings. But luckily I almost committed suicide. And before I did, I had this epiphany moment that I could change the way I was living by changing the way I saw my past, right? Instead of being a victim to all the circumstances, whose fault is it, right? Dad's fault, mom's fault, teacher's fault, preacher's fault, cop's fault, whose fault? I realized then that it was really my choice. There is no fault. There's only responsibility, right? And it was my responsibility to tell that story of what happened. And I got to choose whether I was going to be a victim to those stories or move myself out of it and use it as a way to propel myself forward. And so, like I said, I wish I could tell you it was an overnight thing, but it took me about a month to get things in order, to get in a place where I was able to leave Colorado and move to Oregon, jump on a fishing boat, and been off of methamphetamines now for 22 years. And as I got more in touch with my own healing and processing of the traumas and stuff that hadn't been brought to light, I just got closer and closer to my purpose, right? Closer and closer to my passion, closer and closer to life, being the life that I believe I was sent and designed to experience. And so that's where I'm at now, is having learned these new things and been given these new gifts on how to share that healing and that experience. I like to help people, release their past and stop and become a product of their past instead of a victim to it. And that's usually by affecting the energy field. And so I don't know how far you want to go into that, but that's where I got to get here, is really having to dig in and see what kind of thoughts, belief systems, and expectations I had on myself and the world, and then slowly moving through those. And luckily now having the energetic aspect and the communities like yourself and some of the other communities I'm in that have helped me to see who I truly am outside of the limitations of my stories. And I think that's been the biggest part lately, especially in this last, like, it's been a little bit of bumpy, and then you get to that point where the ascension goes really steep, really fast. I think that's because of the support and the community that I have now, I think.
Okay, that was amazing and a lot of great information. We'll dive a little bit more into that when we get to the TTSI specifically. But I did have one question. So you had said that you almost committed suicide, and this, it's just showing up in my world so much. Like a lot of acquaintances, Facebook friends, or for people I do know committing suicide. And I felt compelled to ask you, like, what helped you when you were thinking about doing it to not do it? Like, what's made you stop or reconsider, I guess? And what could you tell someone that might be thinking of that for themselves?
Yeah. I always hesitate saying this because there's a possibility that someone might hear it the wrong way, but ultimately it was the understanding that I had the ability to end my life. That I had that choice, that if I could choose to end it all and quit and just end life, regardless of what happens after the fact or any punishment that some God or some other deity may have over me, I had the power in my hands right then to stop it all. And if I had the power to end my life, I'm sure I had the power to try a couple more things to change it before I did. And that's really when I went into the, who am I going to blame? Who do they get to say caused this? When they find my body, who will they say, oh, his mother, oh, his father? And none of those people were to blame for where I was. Not one of those people had anything to do with me being on that rooftop, eating food out of the trash and smoking crack because I'd lost, not crack, it wasn't crack, it was meth. But because I'd lost all my connections and my friends and my support and my money and everything else, like, I was the only one who had the power to put me in that position. And if I had the power to end my life, I sure as hell had the power to change it.
Ooh, that gave me chills. At first, I was like, oh, wow, that is an interesting answer. It's like, what does that mean? But then once you followed up, I was like, that's exactly what it means. It's like, yeah, we have the choice to choose which way we want to go, right? So you can choose to end it all, or you can choose to make different choices, get help, ask for support, whatever that might look like. And is there anything that helped you to realize, like, that it was your responsibility, or how to take that accountability? Like, how did you all of a sudden just see how to take the accountability
Well,
for yourself?
yeah, well, I didn't know how at first, right? But like it was that like, okay, if I can do anything, like I've got the responsibility to do something, right? Um, I mean, from those moments, it was really like, I'm gonna do my best to get out of this. And I kept the side of like, I have control. I have control how I want to deal with this, right? I can't change the situation, but I can change the outcome. And then I don't know when I heard it, but that saying, our responsibility is our ability to respond. That really was the feeling, right? Whether I heard that saying first or if I came across it later, it was that understanding that no, it's like once you understand someone else failed you, you can sit there and say, "Yep, I've been failed," or you can say, "Oh, I know what they did wrong. I see that they failed, right? So I can see what they did wrong." So taking the responsibility back is like removing fault from others. That's removing victimhood. That's removing being at the subject of somebody else's desires and thoughts and beliefs, and taking responsibility to how you react, right? Because most of us are just reacting 90% of the time. Whatever happens, we just react out of instinct. But when you stop and respond, you have the power to change the next step. And that was really what it was like, even though I was still homeless at the moment, I was responding by saying, I'm going to figure something out. I'm going to ask somebody. Like, I just remember hitting the ground and being like, if I'm not going to die, I better live. Right. And really choosing the way I was responding to the circumstances. And luckily I did have a scenario where I got onto a fishing boat with someone who was sober. And I just spent a lot of time sober for that first time when I couldn't trust myself. I wish I had some like more grandiose thing that I could pass on to somebody. But it was really, I had to leave everything behind. I left my 2-year-old son. I left my high school friends. I left everything I knew, because I knew that in order to reinvent myself or have another option, I needed to remove the obstacles from around me, right? So that's probably the biggest thing I did as far as what I was accountable for, is that I left. I chose to do something different. And even though I got to Oregon with nothing, um, luckily I had my mom to lean on a little bit. Um, but I had to make the hard choice, man. And it was I'm like, just thinking about how hard it was and how easy it might have been to commit suicide. But ultimately, like, I'm so much happier where I am right now, right? Those choices and those ways to respond that have led me to where I am right now, and the level of bliss that I experience on a daily basis. I just can't even, yeah, I wish I had some silver bullet to just hand someone and say, this is the key, but it really is about choosing what you want and committing to being your own warrior and not letting anybody else's beliefs, anybody else's expectations, or circumstantial situations turn you towards a permanent solution for a temporary problem.
I love that. I have like chills just everywhere. Amazing, amazing answer. Thank you for sharing that. I know I could. Yeah, thanks. I never know what's going to come through on these interviews, and I just ask the questions that come to me. And so the thing I wanted to point out is that you now are able, because of what you went through, you were able to help other people that have a lot of pain, because a lot of times it's pain. I mean, I can't speak for anybody, but I think that it's pain that's causing people to have these thoughts or considerations. And it's like you're helping people to remove that so that they can find peace on the other side of the pain, right?
That's right. That's right. And that pain is literally like 1,000 nails being driven in by all of the beliefs. Right. And that's the one thing I noticed, is that when I shifted who I was blaming and what my beliefs said about me, whether my dad leaving meant that I wasn't worthy of him, or if it meant I was so awesome that I excelled despite him, like how I started to see those situations is what changed the thoughts that were pushing the nails in. And that gave me the relief. And so that has been an experience over time of understanding that. And that's where the TTSI comes in, with that really fast acting ability to help people release the energy and realign the chakras too. Because having done this for several years now, I'll tell you what I wish I had known then, was that my chakra system was probably way out of line. And you can't have a zest and a zeal for life when your chakra systems aren't metabolizing life force energy. And if you have the other traumas and the other belief systems and the other pain inducing energies, it's really an easy path to see the escape of that pain. And that is usually it. It's escaping the pain and getting back to just feeling connected to something is usually the drive.
Yeah. I like that you said that you stopped blaming other people, because what I've learned in my work is that we can't control what has happened to us or how other people may act or be in a way towards us, or what things may come from that. All we can do is look at what has happened and figure out a way to work through it, move from it, whatever the journey is for that person. And that's taking the responsibility for it. And there's like a quote I read from someone somewhere that was basically all about that. And I think it's brilliant, right? We can't control what happened to us, but we are responsible for creating a different outcome and healing, or looking at those things and working with them to move forward. So thank you for sharing that. Well, now that we're already talking about it and how your whole journey went, how did you get into the TTSI, and which, just to recap, is the trauma transmutation and soul integration?
Yeah. So that definitely was an interesting turn in my life for sure. Up until I was 33, I had been like, I did Reiki when I was really young. My mom was into science of mind and was always really open spiritually and kind of new agey. And I was attuned to Reiki when I was 14, and it actually helped me heal from a very deathly prognosis, right? The doctors had basically said I wasn't savable. And my mom took me to the natural works and got me all tuned up and fixed with the herbs and the vitamins and the energy work. And so I was exposed to it at that age. In fact, I was attuned to level 2 at 14, but by the time I was 15, high school was not a good place for a sensitive person to be. And that's when I went kind of dark side, right? And that's really what I ran away from, was that a light and that connection and that power that was there. Fast forward, 20 years, and my son was born. 2 years after he was born, he stopped talking, and my life was really in a state of chaos that I couldn't even comprehend. And super long story short, I got invited to an ayahuasca ceremony, and the ayahuasca medicine told me that I needed to get back on or that I asked how to change my path. And she said, to get back on the healish path, you just have to quit clouding your vision. You already know the path, just quit clouding your vision. And so that was the start of a series of 2 years where I sat with ayahuasca several times and started to get these downloads of information and understanding, and reading books like the Four Agreements and these kind of basic concepts of how we build our reality from our thoughts. Even back then, we're planting seeds for what is now turned into a way of helping people really identify not only what the thought that's in the head, right? Because the head is just a receiver, the heart is just a receiver, and the stomach is a receiver. And what they're receiving is from the energy that's being condensed into the body. And unfortunately, it's not the pure universal force of abundance and prosperity and vitality and health. It's always pumping into us, but it has to go through the ego field, or our perception of ourself and our reality, to reach us. And as it does, it goes through our experiences and tells us what we can expect about people, to keep us safe, and what kind of situations to avoid trauma, basically the things that happen to us that tell us who we are. And I have understood now through my own experience and through these visions and this, I call it dream school, basically a lot of dream school, waking up with these awarenesses, seeking out help and confirmation, and then seeing it in action in these sessions, is that when you release these thought forms and you defuse these energy forms and these belief systems and attachments and entities and all these things that can affect the energy field, the thoughts that are coming in are pure, are cleaner, are easier to access, and you're less in the reaction and more into the response. And as well as like the way it affects the mental and emotional body, it also affects the physical body, which is total side effect, right? Like, I do not claim to heal, cure, or treat anything except for in the energy field, because there is a lot of significant healing that comes from having an in-tune system where your chakras are aligned and your body's charged and your brain is balanced. And the TTSI is a way of bringing you to that high vibrational point, and then removing the low vibrational thoughts, feelings, and constructs, so that you can be back in tune with yourself. And what comes out of that is as broad as, becoming non-suicidal ideation, leaving relationships, finding new relationships, creating jobs, creating businesses, moving across the country, healing your body, healing your lineage. And so much can come out of it. But the base of it is that the energy needs to be tuned and cleared, so that we can have cleaner thoughts and feelings, and really move forward with the healing as an individual and the collective.
I love that. And I had a question. I should have wrote it down.
I kind of went on a ramble there, for sure.
No, but it was so good. Oh, my question is a very simple question. If someone's watching this, because not everybody knows what chakras are, can you just explain real quick what the chakra? I should have asked you earlier. It came across earlier too, and then it came back, and I was like, okay, I hear you.
Cool.
Just in case people don't know yet what the chakras are, can you explain?
Yeah. Basically, chakra, I think it's Sanskrit if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me. My memory is just as bad as anybody else's, but I love this stuff. So the chakras are basically energy centers, right? It means wheel, but it's basically these centers in our energy field that process universal life force energy. And they have different frequencies and different tendencies, and they affect different parts of the body. So like the root chakra is at the base of the tailbone, and it's what connects us to the earth and gives us really good, strong standing. And it actually is also very responsible for, or affected by, I should say, safety, security, and stability, right? So in this case, if you were a child that had everything given to you, you never had to cry it out, and you were always fed when you wanted to and warm when you wanted to, this chakra can really develop really strong boundaries and really strong identity about yourself and what you are, right? And so as the energy from the universe comes into that, it also goes out of that. So coming into that energy system is going through your beliefs, but what's going out is what you want to project to the universe, to society, to people. And as it does that, if that chakra is one that was developed under these great circumstances, then you will push out and manifest and resonate circumstances and situations that are in a response to security, stability, and strength. Versus if you did not have that childhood, or you had circumstances that had you question your, mentally question your safety and security, or subconsciously question your security, then that chakra might be affected, and you might not feel as grounded, you might not feel as secure, and you might also have physical ailments that have to do with that part of the body, that lower part of the bones, the muscles, and that kind of thing. And all the chakras have different effects: heart chakra, throat chakra, third eye chakra, crown chakra. They all have different frequencies in different parts of the body. But the basic is that it's a way of us processing universal life force.
And I wanted to add in there emotional safety too. So
Yes.
Having a safe space to cry or share your feelings, and that one's very important. Okay, thank you for that. So let's talk about, because I have now experienced your full TTSI. And when you were talking about the chakras, I was like, oh yeah, that was me. Every time I go into a healing session, everyone's like, oh my gosh, your root chakra is so off. And you nailed it immediately. And you were like, gosh, how is your heart chakra even functioning? Because all of your other chakras around it are so off balance that it's like, yeah, I don't know how you would describe that, but that stood out to me, and was just very eye-opening, because all of the symptoms and the signs in the session that you were talking about, I was like, yes, check. And so let's talk about, what does an experience, if someone were to do the TTSI with you, what does like that experience look like? And we can walk through mine as well with that.
Yeah, that'd be good to hear yours too. It's kind of funny because it actually really starts during the clarity call, right? That clarity call is not part of the program. It's not a sales call. It's just an opportunity to like help you see what might be affecting you outside of what you think is there, right? Because I'm not psychic. I can't say, oh, this and this. It's more like I tune in. I'm very intuitive, very claircognizant, and clairsentient. So I'm able to connect with the person and kind of help guide them through some spaces that they can't see on their own, right? Because we all have our own blinders, and I think that's why we all are loving coaches so much in this era, because we really need someone who can read the bottle for us, read the label, right? So we know what's going on inside the bottle. And so that it starts then with this clarity. And it's funny because every time someone makes a session, it's like right then the spirits start to conspire to bring forth like change. And so I constantly hear people be like, dude, it's been the craziest week since I booked the session, because it's about bringing all that stuff to the surface that you want to deal with. The session itself is 4 hours long, and this is like a deep dive into the trauma triage, right? So we really sink in, and I use the CARES protocol, CARES. So connecting and charging up the energy field so that you can really see where the weak spots are, where any blocks are. So we access and assess the energy system and kind of find the blocks and the leaks. Then we do the reprogramming of the thoughts as we're talking, and you'll be able to tell, it's like during the session, the light is going into the body. It's like shining a flashlight into the basement, right? All these little creepy crawlies eyes start to show up, and you start to see those things that you didn't know were affecting you. And through that process, we're able to reprogram them and release them, and then eliminate all the toxins from them in the energy field. We use portals and stones and oils and all kinds of good woo-woo stuff that adds to the magic, and really eliminate these attachments, and then shield up the body after the fact. So the body's charged, the brain's balanced, the chakras are aligned, entities or attachments are removed, and then you're really built back up with that universal force energy to charge you up and shield you and really fill up the space of anything that was removed. And then after that session, I like to do the follow-up session 2 weeks later, because integration after having your kind of belief system pulled apart can be really interesting when you get back to your daily life. So I offer people 2 weeks worth of support in the WhatsApp, so that you can message me every day, ask for 5 minutes of energy if you need it, meditations, that kind of stuff. And then the 2-hour follow-up is for motivation and integration, really talking about the difference that you can see in life over the last 2 weeks, and how do you want to move forward with that energy really anchored into the chakras. And then we do a much shorter session, and we include the sound bowls for the chakra alignment part. So it's kind of a sound bath at the end as well, just to really anchor in all those high vibe experiences. And then obviously there's room for support after the fact, but many people just come for one combo and can get such amazing breakthroughs that they get. I mean, just really profound changes come after the sessions.
I love it. And you share it all the time with me, your testimonials. And there's been some really powerful ones. So my experience was interesting because we set it up specifically to align with the Mount Shasta mystical journey, which Occam was a guide on that journey with. And we met in Shasta in person for the first time. But we did my first session. And that was what our first interview was about, was my first session. And how 4 hours flew by the way. It was crazy fast. I think it ended up being 4.5 hours. Occam is extremely intuitive. Anytime I was about to say something, he would beat me to it. Or like, I'd be like, oh, I'm getting a pain. And then he'd be like, in your knee, your right knee. And I'm like, yeah. And then I could actually feel, and I like to describe these things because people who haven't done this work yet might not know what to expect. That reminds me, I had a question for you, a clarifying question about entities and attachments, but I'll finish first. And then what was really cool is feeling your actual energy in my body. Like, I'd be like, oh, are you working on this right now? Like, I can feel it. And that's not always the case. I just want to say that, because when I first started doing energy work, either it was the person, I couldn't feel the energy, but it doesn't mean it's not working, or I was just so new that I wasn't in tune with my body yet. But as I've done more work, I'm more tapped in and more intuitive also. But yeah, all the things that came through were so spot on. I literally cannot think of one thing that you said that was not like just a huge resonation, like, oh my gosh, yes. Like it felt like you were like, you in my mind and heart and soul was creepy, very awesome, all at the same time. And I love that you had come and you showed up and you were like, Jennifer, I'm not going to be the same person that you usually talk to. I'm going to be a whole different person. And I was like, okay, whatever. And literally I could feel the energy when you came on to our first call, that you were really this neutral source, that you were just there to be a channel to help these things come out. And yes, like lots of roots. I had roots, not just like one little flower, pick out and pull it out. I mean, we had deep roots in there, and we did a lot of work. And then we went to Mount Shasta, which I love what you say, because I have learned this in workshops and many other things, is that when you commit to something, you say yes, or you set an intention, the work starts happening then. So for me, like Mount Shasta as a whole was a huge transitional journey for me as a leader, as a business owner, as a person, all these different ways. And so when I started planning the Mount Shasta journey, I was bumping up about like all these challenges coming through. So I was so grateful that our sessions ended up being right in the midst of it. And then when we're in this super powerful, magical root chakra of the world, I'm literally like so grateful to have you there with me, because as one of my personal healers and guides in the network, I'm like, oh, and you're doing like on-demand Reiki, not just for me, but for everybody. And just, I just want to say, Occam, as if you are ever going to rent yourself out to be a person to add on to a retreat, I think you are so great at that. You are so helpful. I just want to put that plug in there. I had that idea. I was like, you should hire yourself out to go to people's retreats, like talk to every single person, made them feel welcome, carried our stuff, was like MacGyver. It's like, I could fix this. You got like a construction background. If we needed it, it came out. I don't know. Who would you be, like Mary Poppins? Like you open your bag and then.
Yeah, more like MacGyver. Somewhere between MacGyver and Inspector Gadget, maybe.
Inspector Gadget, yes. It's like, oh, we need a rope. And then all of a sudden here, oh, I got one right here. And then he starts pulling it out of his jacket pocket. So anyways, it was so great to have you there as a support in many ways, personally for me with what I was experiencing. And I was in the high, so I didn't know yet what was to come. But as soon as that event was over, I was driving home and I could just feel I was so sad, and like there was a lot of feelings coming up. And then I kind of went down into a little funk. And I called him and I was like, yeah, I'm not sure what's happening. I know a lot of stuff is brought up. And I was in host mode. So my adrenaline was high during the event. And I didn't have the experience like people who attended the event as a guest, because I'm on call 24/7. Hey, is everybody okay? Like, are we on time? Whatever the case might be. So once it came down, like, then all the true colors started to show of what we had pulled up in this event. And what I know, because it sounds kind of scary if you've never done it, but what I know is that when I experience that, there is about to be some freaking magic that is about to come out and sprout on the other side of it. And then we did our follow-up session, and I felt much better after that. And I remember I had more clarity, had more energy. Yeah, so much good stuff. Do you have anything to add?
Well, I know that we had done it before the session because you were already starting to come up against some of those, like, this is a big thing.
Yes.
And when I reached out to you about whether I was going to go or not, it was like obvious to me that you're under a lot of pressure. And I remember that in that session, we're like, yes, we want to do this and fortify for the retreat. And so it's not that surprising that right after the retreat, when you were able, it was like, we'll give you just enough armor to get through the front lines. And then once we got through those front lines, you were able to drop the guard and really feel all that. And I think that's really what happened there. And then, yeah, the follow-up was really great because at that point, and I say this to everybody, but the reason why I didn't always do 2 sessions, and most people would never, like, 4 hours and another 2 hours, like, that's a lot of energy work. But what I've seen, the difference between what happens in those 2 weeks after the session, it's nice to have the support of somebody who, like, can still see you for yourself and can help you to understand that even though things go up and down during that ascension, you're still moving forward, right? And so that was just beautiful to see you having not only my support, but the support of the people at the retreat, and as well as other people in the community, because I know that our follow-up actually backed right up with Astra Fox. And so you got a double whammy of trauma work and release. And so, yeah, it was really good timing.
It was, and I'm so grateful because the network is filled with amazing people and amazing workers, light workers, healers, and people that are truly caring. I want to say that, like, it's like heart and soul focused and centered. And yes, I feel like with what you and I did in the TTSI session was a catalyst to help me pull up all that crap. It was like a whole level, like I shed a whole part of me, a whole old self that had been stuck. And I'd been working at this stuff for a long time, but it's like you were able to pull it all to a head and pull it out, so that then when I met with Astra, I was able to see something that I had never been able to see, that was so, like, it just sounded so simple, and I was like, "How the hell have I never seen this?" And I think it's because I had so much gunk that had just been pulled up and just hanging out, and, like, that big clearing allowed me to, like, release the veil and then step into this whole new person. Yeah, it was all very, very divine. I am so grateful for it.
Was that your question about the entity? Do you want to remind you, because you said you had a question?
Yes. So you mentioned like that in these sessions, and we had lots of entities come up, but I feel like the word entity or attachment can sound really scary if you are new to this work or just spirituality at all. It's like my thought goes to like The Exorcist, and it's not like that. It can be very simple. So can you please just elaborate on that? Thank you for bringing it back up.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought it back up, because I wanted to make that clear too. I hesitate sometimes saying that word because there's so much attachment to it, and biblical terms and movies and everything, right? And I only use the word because the best word for it, an entity, is many small things that are an accumulation of many small things that come together to create a more powerful whole, right? Like our body is an entity of cells and organisms. Our planet is an entity, right? And so in the purest form, these energetic affects, if you will, if you want to take the words away from them, they're just energy that's building up in the system. And it starts usually with an original wound, whether that's a epigenetic or in this life. And then it just starts to accumulate the thoughts and the energy, not only what should be coming to you to give you pride and power and excitement and confidence, right? But it's also getting the feedback from every time the bully kicks you, every time the boyfriend cheats on you, every time the car breaks down, it gets that feedback of shame and guilt and remorse and resentment and anger and all these things. And it just accumulates and accumulates and accumulates. So when I say entity, I'm literally speaking about a form of energy that has accumulated so much mass that it actually almost has a level of consciousness with it, right? So there are like these standard attachments, like if you have sex with somebody, there's an umbilical. If you have sex with them a bunch, it's going to be stronger. If there's a intense emotional trigger at that point, then it's going to be really strong, right? But there's also constructs, like things that we believe in our life that are absolutely true for us, that aren't for other people. We can look over and see, oh, that person doesn't have a problem with this, but I can't possibly do that, right? That's the same thing, a little simple thought that is accumulated to become something so concrete. And when it goes just past that, that's when I consider it an entity, because they actually gain a low level of consciousness, like a leech or a tick or a parasite. You know, they're not malicious, they're not evil, they're not some biblical thing that's going to drag you down to hell. They're literally found a way to feed off of your loosh, or your lower form energy, right? The opposite of love would be loosh. And they feed on that and they absorb that. And so they can manipulate not only the information coming in, but some of us have actually had the whispering in the ear of, you're not worth any more than this. You might as well smoke the crack. You should never go for that job. You must be crazy, or you're clearly too fat and ugly to hit on him, right? We hear these voices, but at the root of them, they all started with something that was said when we were children, and they've just accumulated to the point. And I don't want to take too much time, but it's kind of like candida yeast. Candida yeast is also an entity, but its own small parts, it can populate the stomach with no problem. But an overpopulation, and it colonizes on the intestine, and it stops the absorption of nutrients, just like these energies do in the field, right? And as it gets bigger and bigger, when it gets hungry, it releases a certain chemical into our body that makes us want sugar. It makes us feel super lethargic and kind of depressed and lazy, and we crave sugar. And when that yeast eats the sugar, there's another chemical reaction that releases a dopamine type response, and we feel great. We're like, my God, I love Ben and Jerry's, and how great that six pack is on Friday, you know, to make me forget about the week. But the whole time, that yeast is just controlling you. Like, it doesn't have to have a knife and a gun. It's just training you through that Pavlovian response that you like sugar, you like coffee, you like pops and things. But it's really, you're benefiting this entity. And that's what these are in the field. So they're not something that needs to be scared of or feared or even battled, because the majority of them thrive on those lower vibrational energies. We need to come at them with that divine neutrality, with that ability to say, look, I understand what you are and you're here, and let's do something about this. But I have no fear, I have no anger, because that's what you thrive on. I'm a being of light and love, and that's what I have for you. And I'm willing to give you these opportunities to leave this place that is now so high vibe that you're not even comfortable here, right? Because once you do the session, you are not the same vibration as you were when you came in, and these things don't like it. And then I offer them a portal that they can go to, and that portal takes them to wherever they're supposed to be. So I don't have to know if they need to go to Mars or Atlantis or past or present or future. That all happens out there, where things are much farther out than my mortal comprehension. But I know that when I do these things, it becomes really easy. And like you said, 1, 2, 3, 4, we can get them all out and bring in the newness. And so I hope that explains the entity.
It does. And I had lots and lots of very stubborn, like myself, entities that were there. And most of the time, like mine were all about protection. They had formed to protect me from something that had happened in the past. And I am ready to move forward on a conscious level, but these were all hanging out in the unconscious and in the energetic field. And so we had to work with them to have them move on and to be released, so that I could level up into a higher vibration, a higher consciousness. And yes, I love how you described it. It's really just all of this mass of old thought forms, beliefs, whatever the case is. That's exactly what I experienced. And
then the level of education or awareness that changes too. Like, you kind of take a lesson. You almost get this lesson of like, oh, okay, I see why I've been struggling with that. This isn't punishment. This is an exercise, right? It's actually leading me towards my best self. It just got out of hand and I forgot I was in training. Okay, time to take off the training weights, and go back to being in life without this resistance.
I love that. Yes. Well, if someone is listening to this and is like, wow, I would love to do this, or I need this in my life, what is the next step that they should take?
Yeah, I would definitely go to my website, the occamwood.com, and I just recorded a video explaining all of this in a little bit more detail. I'm actually really proud of it. It totally needs to be reshot, right? But it was one of those things where I'm not really have in the past not been really confident about getting on camera and speaking and sharing my truth. And so this video was actually a challenge from one of my abundance coaches to like put myself out there. And so it was a really beautiful explanation of all of this that you need to know about what is affecting you. And then that way you can decide if you want to get on a clarity call with me and go farther with those personalized questions, after you understand a little bit more about what all the dynamics of why we incarnate. And it's a little bit of a long video, but honestly it's really worth it and I'm really proud of it. So if you want to go watch that video, and then get on a clarity call, and it's as easy as that. We can get you on the schedule and start moving forward if that's right. Or I also have a really great referral group, right? Referral community. And so if it's not me that you need to work with, maybe it's just a mindset thing and you already have done some trauma work with other people, then I'm not gonna like try to sell you on anything. I will send you to the person who's right for you, because I've definitely learned long ago that it's not my job to lead people to water or make them drink. It's for me to help people to understand what's best for them so they can make a choice. And I also want to mention that is I don't call myself a healer, right? I refer to myself as an energetic health practitioner, because I really truly do believe that a healer is not somebody you go to be fixed. A true healer is someone who sparks within you the ability to heal yourself and to move through your own process. And so that's why I really do want to say that too, is like, I can't snap my fingers and fix everything, but the TTSI can let you see the blocks, remove the blocks, and help you with the fuel and the momentum to move forward. If you've already spent money on courses and programs and you're not seeing the same results as other people and you keep getting stuck in the same cycle or the glass ceiling or the self-sabotage, that's when you want to come to me. Like if you want to get to the really core of it and let go of that last thing or the first thing, sometimes I'm not going to say it couldn't be the first thing, but that's what I would do is watch that video and get on a call and just see what's possible once you understand the energy.
Awesome. So if you want to go watch the video and also book a call, both of those are available on Occam's website, occamwood.com, here on the screen, also in the caption, wherever you're watching this. And then you're also part of the Soul Crew, and you were telling me about a really cool new, I don't know, feature. I don't know what you would call it.
Yeah, I think it's a new experience offering. Yeah, it's still within the same crew, but it's kind of like how you have these multiple events. It's just a new kind of event. So we already, the Soul Crew community is a community for neuro quirky individuals who really want to take the next step in life, who want to overcome and step out and move out of different experiences. And it was started by my partner, Jess Divine, and she's been running it for a while. And then once I joined her, she really wanted to bring in the metaphysics. So she already has a huge backlog of videos about mental health, business development, writing and telling your story, publishing your books. And now I've brought in the metaphysics of how do we really get into the energetics of those traumas and the different stuff. And so between the two of us, we have a lot of fun. And then you add in all the great people, the variety of individuals that are in our space is really something special. I've not seen this level of diversity anywhere else, honestly. And we just support each other through the process as we learn. And so the newest feature, in addition to the Metaphysics Thursdays, the newest features, we're going to do the round table reading, right? And round table reflect and reading or something. But basically it's going to be like a book club on steroids, where we're going to get together and we're going to listen to some of these self-help books and really start to dissect some of what's really in there and take actions and work through some of the blocks that come up with each other, because there's multiple powerful people in the crew. And the Soul Crew itself is very much about collective individuality, everybody being as much themselves as they can so the collective benefits, right? And so we all have helped and healed each other for sure. And so we're going to do the book. The Fifth Agreement is the first book we're going to do. So not this Thursday, because we have the Global Gratitude March, but next Thursday we're starting the reading roundtable. And so if you're interested in learning more about the Fifth Agreement, which is the Don Miguel Ruiz book, the follow-up to the Four Agreements, and don't worry if you haven't listened to the first four, it's a recap of the Four Agreements, and then it leads into the Fifth Agreement. And so this is a book that really has been profound for me. Talks about the dream of how we build our life out of our thoughts and our reality out of our thoughts. And the majority of us are living somebody else's reality. So it's going to be a fun book to start off with and put some of those fundamentals in for what's going on. We're going to pick a couple other really good books as we move through too. So we're offering a 7-day free membership right now. So if you go to the website where that link is, and actually I was going to tell you I don't need a coupon because it's right in there. The offer right now is start with 7 days free. And so anybody can come and get in for 7 days, and that'll get you, I think, 2 of the reading roundtables. And you'll also get access to all of Jess's video pre-recorded material as well, and all the replays. So that's the newest thing in the Soul Crew is the reading roundtable.
Amazing. What time on the 28th?
That will be at 3:00 p.m. Pacific time. And we have been, we will know by the first of the month if we are actually going to move to morning meetings, because we are having a much larger European group now that want to start joining us. And so we're probably going to change the time to a little bit more multi-time zone friendly.
Very nice. Very nice. Awesome. Anything else you want to add? When I get too high in the pitch, I can hear myself come back. Anything else you want to add before we start to wrap up?
Nothing specifically about the energy work or the community that I can think of. I think, yeah, just come ask questions, man. I love to talk. I love to share. And I'm also, like I said, I'm really excited about talking about the retreat. We definitely don't touch on that before we go too.
Yeah, let's do it. So we've got about 10 minutes left, or 9. Let's talk about the Mount Shasta mystical journey that we went on together. It was our very first one for the network. It was July of 2023, just in case people are watching this in the future. And yeah, I'm starting to look at options for the next one, but details to follow. The wait list is in the caption. What would you like to share about the journey and your experience of it?
First of all, gosh, I wish we had more than 10 minutes now, because I'll tell you what, just the idea of, like you said, when you commit to something, how things change. I literally wasn't even going to be able to go to the retreat unless things financially changed, and my son's health also changed. And when I said I wanted to go, all of a sudden the universe, not all of a sudden, it's always conspiring for me, but I gave it a direction, and it started to conspire in the direction of making it very possible. And so it was the first retreat I've ever been to, first day off I'd had in 10 years, right? So it was huge in that regard. But to show up in a community of people who are so welcoming and so heart-centered and soul-focused was really, really refreshing, to be able to speak my mind and not have any fear of judgment, and also to be able to support. I really realized how passionate I am about hospitality and making people feel comfortable. And this is something that you brought to my attention after the fact. And so it literally sparked open a whole new possibility for what I want to do in life as far as holding retreats and hosting communities. But the amount of energy I was able to shift during the ceremonies that Lori was walking us through, or Fairy Poppins, as I like to call her, everywhere we went, a little basket of ceremonial goodies, and we would just show up, and then a portal would be there, and we'd have these amazing exercises on awareness and release. And I mean, my wife had breakthroughs while I was at that retreat. Like, that's how powerful it's been. And the sessions and the clients that have continued to come have been exponentially expansive for everything I know about what I do and how I live it. So it's like, it's a catalyst. It's a nexus moment for me to go to that retreat. And I am so excited to do it again.
Me too. Me too. That is so powerful. I love that you said my wife had breakthroughs, and that is the power. That's what I'm passionate about, is when we just work on ourselves and we show up for ourselves and we look at ourselves and we, just work on ourselves, look at things, that it creates this ripple effect of anyone that is in our spider web of connection and how it can impact them as well. So that's pretty freaking fantastic. And yeah, we were so lucky and grateful to have you there with us. It was amazing. We are that was our initiation, and we were the initial people to attend this. And I see this as an event that is going to grow every year more and more and more. And it might be a little different next year. What'd you say?
The first annual
Connect
Your Hearts meeting.
Annual. We don't know yet. I feel like it might be a little different next year. I have a lot of ideas, thoughts, and visions. So I have to get connected to the source and get the guidance from them. Like, what is it going to be for next year? But what I do know is that everybody left with like life-changing transformations, and myself included, as we talked about with my session. And a lot of mine was about value and worth, and finances, also abundance. But value and worth, like I know my gifts and I know what I bring to the table, but I'm still working on knowing. And when I say I know up here, but it's knowing in here and in your body and embodying that. And that event helped me to really pull up some stuff that was holding me back. More work to do always, and I have come a long way. So
I can tell you were the hostess with the mostest. Like every part of that retreat seemed so smooth and so intentional, and like I can't think of one. I don't think I heard anybody complain once, except for the fact that it was a long ass hike. Other than the hike, no one was complaining about any of the services or the time. Like it was a really, really good time, and honestly, I can't even. Like I shouldn't say I can't even. I'm excited about how we're gonna take it to the next level and make it even better next time.
Me too. And thank you for that. I think I was the biggest complainer, to be honest, because it was hot and I'm out of shape and it was a challenging hike. And I was just like, I knew this was going to be harder than we thought. But we all made it. It was worth it. And nothing like getting yourself out of your comfort zone, and lots of lessons learned. We will definitely have a masseuse next year because we could all have used a massage. That's for sure. So that is something I'm going to have to call a masseuse into the network as a guide so that they can come and support us. Yes.
So it is. So it is.
Well, thank you for joining me again. I always love doing our interviews. Your story is so powerful, and thank you for sharing in depth about it, because I put you on the spot with that, which I figured was okay. I trust the questions that come through, and thank you for trusting me for being your host and leading this interview. And I appreciate you. And yes, if you all want to check Occam out, find him on occamwood.com. If you want to connect on his socials and that's where you feel good starting, you can do that. We are talking about getting some events with Occam up in the network. I can't wait. I've been pushing. I'm like, I just need you to tell me yes, and we're going to get it going. So coming soon. All right, everyone, have an amazing day wherever you are. And thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you.